In an earlier video I took this final drive out of my car. It's got a lot of wear in it, and it's making a groaning noise, so I needed to replace it. I've got one from a Breakers, which we'll look at in a second, but just to give you the background, that's where we're up to. I'll drop the link in for the other video that I produced where I removed this drive out of the car. Right, I've just returned from the Breakers, and here's the new diff. It's got, this is the important thing just here, as for me anyway, 751 9925. That confirms to me that this is a 3.64 to 1 ratio diff, which is what's required. Well, what's standard in my particular car and what's required by the regulations under which I race. You can see there's been a little bit of oil spill out of here. That was my fault. What I did was I rolled the diff right over, and there's a vent hole just on the side here, and it's just some of the oil's come out. What I'm going to do is I'm going to clean it up a bit with a spinning wire brush. I may give it a coat of paint and getting ready to reinstall it. I am also going to change the oil in it, so I'll drain the oil completely out and I'll put fresh oil in it. It's much tighter than my my old diff. I mean, it's I don't know if I can do this. Yeah, I mean, it feels nice and smooth. Regarding the movement, there is a little bit of movement in this side and in that side, but it's far less than in the old diff. And the other thing is, it doesn't twist. You know, I can't rock it side to side like I could with the other diff. It's come out of a car that apparently has done 81,000 miles, which is about half what my car's done. In fact, it's less than half what my car's done on the original diff. So we'll get that sorted out and then we'll start to install it. So I've just spent some time with a spinning wire brush and actually with a small hammer chipping off the flakes of rust, etc. And then I've given it a coat of some grey paint that I had. I'm not going to show you it close up because it's not good. It's good enough. The main thing, the reason I wanted to do this was because it's so much easier to be working under the car when you don't have flakes of rust dropping into your face and you know, everything is in such a mess. It's better if it's reasonably tidy. The other thing is that it's easier to spot oil leaks and things like that if you keep everything clean. Now, I drained all the oil out of the final drive unit. Actually, the oil was in really good condition. It's quite clear, it's not black, and I can't see any signs of you know, flecks of steel or anything in it, so it does look pretty good. But of course I have replaced it with new oil. It says in the manual it takes approximately 1 litre of 75 W90 oil. Actually it says 1.1 litres. I had a litre on the shelf here, so I've put a litre in it so far. What I'll do is I'll get it in the car, get the car level, undo the plug. If it starts to dribble out of the filler plug, which is down here, then I'll know that it's full, and if it doesn't dribble out, then I'll get some more oil and put some more in it. But quite honestly, I think that's pretty close to having what's needed. The bolts for the flange, for the prop shaft here, and for the flanges for the output shafts, I've ordered new ones from BMW. Unfortunately, they didn't come today. They're supposed to arrive first thing tomorrow morning. I did think perhaps I'll stick it all in and just bolt it up with the old bolts and then worry about it later. But quite honestly, today's Thursday. I do have enough time, I believe. The most difficult bit of this exercise is going to be getting this final drive in place and getting the bolts through the bushes. And if I get all that done today, then bolting on the prop shaft and the output shafts tomorrow shouldn't be a big deal. It should, you know, I should be able to complete that fairly quickly. So I reckon that's probably a morning job, which leaves me the afternoon to get my trailer, load the car into the trailer, ready for the race. So here's the plan. The first step, I could have done with cleaning that up a bit. The first step is to get the gearbox differential final drive unit up into here so that I can get the big bolt through the casing and then through this bush. But between the two, I've got to get this washer. So there's the bolt, there's the washer. I think that's probably as good as I'm going to get the camera. Before we put that in, I am going to give that a quick clean. You may think this is all a bit mad cleaning everything, but as I said earlier, the one good thing about having everything clean is if you want to check for leaks, oil leaks or anything, fluid leaks, it's a lot easier if everything's clean. If you've got existing gunk all over here, there's no way of you telling whether the gunk you're seeing there now is new gunk or the old gunk. So I prefer to try and keep it all as clean. I certainly, I'm very sort of dedicated to keeping the engine bay clean, because that is one place where you're always checking for leaks. And if I do get any leaks, I have to clean it all off, because again, I want to know if there's a new leak developed, or rather than just leaving old leakage all over the place. Okay, so that does look better. Just do over there a bit. It's actually held up quite well. This is just hammerite, the ordinary hammerite, not the ultra, just the standard hammerite. And it was just painted on with a brush, although I did try spraying it and then made a hell of a mess all in my garage. But yeah, okay, now comes the more tricky bit. I really don't like this. This is my least favourite part of the whole exercise. We need to get it roughly in position, which I think is about there. I don't think that's... So the trick I use, which I think you can just about see on the camera, is that I pump the jack with my foot whilst supporting the final drive unit. It's like changing the quality of the light in there. The battery went in my other light. Yeah, I was going to say that I did drop my gearbox off of this jack when I was taking it out, and it rolled over and bent a lug on the top. So you do need to be pretty careful when you're doing this stuff. And also, obviously, if it falls, don't try and stop it. Just get your arms out of the way. It's tilting because of this drive shaft over the other side. Yeah, it's not going to let it go. Come on, come on. Okay, we're going up a bit uneven now. Okay, we're getting pretty close. Right, now can I get the bolt through there? Let's bring it up a little bit further. Right, that's there. Now, I need the bolt, I need the washer. Oh man, that's not going to go. Let me get an idea of where we are. All right, should be able to see it. There we go. Thank goodness. Actually, I've got that around the wrong way. Let's just flip it over. It doesn't really matter, but I can see which way it came off, so I'm going to put it back where it came off. Okay, there we go. Okay, so the washer's in place. Now all I've got to do is get it so it's right. Now it's actually in the bush. If you get what I mean. Let's raise it a little bit. See if it'll. Of course, it's in the bush at a bit of an angle. That's why it's resisting me a bit. All right. And what I want to do is get that in further, so I'm going to tap that in with a hammer. It's locked in there again. Hoorah! Okay, I'm going to get the nut on the back of that before anything else moves. Okay, part one done. Now, if you're doing this on a road car, there is one advantage you'll have. If I remember rightly, the bushes are quite flexible. They're quite soft. So you should be able to find that you can manipulate the thing and get it in without too much trouble. With these really hard bushes, there's no give. You can't sort of pull the inner sleeve down to get it to line up. It just won't do it. The next thing is to get these front bushes in, obviously. Okay, hope you can see that. Okay, now let's need to make sure we've free both sides, and let's give the jack a bit of a pump. It's almost in this side actually. If I can just get one of them in. Everything's in the way, you know. That one, that side actually seems to have gone above the. It's obviously twisted. It's gone above the bolt hole, which is probably why I'm having trouble. I struggled with this for a good 5 minutes, so I'm not going to bore you with it. So let's skip forward a bit. Okay, so as you can see now, I've employed a piece of wood to try and pull the thing into place. I think this one's slightly too low. Oh, I think I've caught the thread. You have to be so careful because I really messed up on the rear subframe on this car when I thought I had it threaded in straight and it wasn't, and then I ended up with a cross-threaded bolt and it caused some real grief. Okay, I think that has actually started. Now, what we'll do, we'll just use a ratchet socket on that to carefully try and pull it in. Okay, so I've got an 18mm ratchet spanner and I'm going to do this very carefully, and if it shows any sign of tightening I'll stop. It's actually going in very easily, which makes me think I haven't actually got it on the thread. No, I don't think that's on. That's turning too easily. I don't know, maybe it is. Yeah, I think it is actually. Base of the light is magnetic, so as soon as I get near it with a spanner, it grabs the spanner. Okay, wow, that's going in. We'll get it in a reasonable distance and then we'll switch to the other side and see if we can get that one in. One thing I did do is I made sure that the threads were clean in these two in the casting, because what you don't want to do is get to this stage and find that it jams because the threads are all dirty or whatever. So I ran a bolt through them to make sure they were clean. Right, now, is this just gonna... Oh, I think this one's going in as well. Wow. Oh, that's a result. That is a result. Let's do this one up a bit. Get the light back. You still can't see that, can you? I don't know how I'm going to do this with you being able to see it. We'll just have to make do with that. I mean, obviously you can see what I'm doing on the end of this bolt. If I can get it in a reasonable distance, I can then switch to using the power wrench to run it all the way through. I don't use a power wrench to start with, because if I've got it in cross-threaded, last thing I want to do is try and drive it home with a power wrench. No, that's going in. That's working. Okay, let's get the wrench. Okay, that's one of them. Get this one in. Yes. I thought I would jump onto the bolt head, but it's not. Oh goodness! No, that's not going to work. I'll carry on with the spanner. What we should be able to do, actually, put that on first and see if we can get the drive on the end of there. All right. Wow, they're in. So obviously all I've now got to torque them up to the correct torque, and then I'll have to stop because I'll need to wait for the bolts to arrive tomorrow. I should be able to get those first thing tomorrow morning. Tomorrow's Friday. If you didn't see the earlier video, I did explain that my diff went wrong during a test session at a track on Tuesday. Then on Wednesday I spent time finding a new final drive unit, a new diff. That arrived, I went to pick that up this morning, which is Thursday. The new bolts are arriving tomorrow for the drive, the flange here and the output shaft flanges, and I'm racing on Saturday. So this is a bit do or die. I haven't got anything else to do to the car, luckily. Everything else is good. I've done a lot of prep work on it. We changed the discs and pads at the track on Tuesday, the front discs and pads, because I wanted to put some new ones on. But actually everything else is going okay, he says, tempting all fate. The good news is the bolts turned up today, so you can see we've got them here. So we've got 12 for the output shaft flanges and 4 for the prop shaft. That lot came to £36.50, I think it was, something like that. So it's not cheap, but it's a lot cheaper than having a failure halfway through a race, so I think it's a worthwhile investment. Something I decided to check before I started to install the output shafts is that the bolts would all go freely into the threaded holes in the flange. Now it turns out, if I can just, I have to reposition the camera here a bit. Let's move that round there. There we go. Well, it turns out that one of them, this one, it jams. So that's the sort of thing, I should have really checked this before I put the diff in, and then it would have been easier to rectify. But what I'm going to do is just check the others. You can't really see that, can you? And then this one. Yeah, all the others are okay. So I've got one where the bolt will not thread in, it will go in a little way and then it just jams up. So what we're going to do is run a tap through it. So it's M8 1.25 pitch. This is going to be tricky. That's not going to swing there, is it? Let's move it round a bit. That's just the that graunching noise is just the prop shaft flange rubbing against the prop shaft. So let's see if we can get this to go through. Oh, this is not good. It's quite... I don't understand how that's... it is going through, but it's quite tough. Okay, it's through. And now it's spinning freely. Yeah, slightly worrying, but it's not loose. It's not as if the threads have completely stripped out of it, so I think we'll be okay. But it's not great, quite honestly. I'm glad I checked it, because that would have been a struggle putting the drive shaft on. Right, I think what we'll do is I will put some cutting compound on my tap and just run it through one more time. You don't need to see that, so let's break that there. Okay, I ran the tap through with some cutting compound on it, and it went through pretty easily. So let's just check it again. There you go. That's fine now. Okay, thank goodness for that. So let's get this drive shaft on and bolted up. What I am going to do is just put a smear of copper slip around the inside part, I think. Let's just make sure this matches up. Yeah, that's good. Okay, because I did have some drive shafts sent to me once where the ends were different, and it's just suddenly struck me that if this flange was different from my my other final drive, then I'd be in big trouble, but that's fine. Okay, so we'll just put a little smear of copper slip around there to stop it seizing up. Right, so this, here you see the new bolts with the little retaining horseshoe thing. The Haynes manual implies that you should replace the retaining plate, but it doesn't actually state it explicitly, and I can't think for the life of me why it would have to be replaced. It's not any special material. The other thing is, I did worry, are they different? Are these little retaining plates different weights to balance out something? But I've just weighed them, and two of them weigh 12 grams and one weighs 14, or just edging on 14. I don't think they're used to balance it. I think it's just, they're just held just to spread the load across the drive shafts. So I can see by the staining on the drive shafts where they originally were. So there's a pair there. So I'm just going to install them like that. So let's, as usual, you have to press the rubber boot in a bit. Now let's get this one in place, and then we'll put the others in. I'm doing them with my fingers to make sure they're not cross-threaded, because this is not a point where I want to cross-thread anything. All right, that's good enough. Let's turn it. We'll do the next one. I'm trying to get it so that you can see what I'm doing, as well as me. I need to hold the shaft up a little bit. That's it. Okay, now what we're going to do next is I'm going to just whiz them up the final bit with the power wrench, but we're going to do what we did, if you saw when we took the diff out, I'm just going to spray the boot with some silicone spray. So I'm just spraying around this because I don't want the socket shaft to catch on the rubber boot. Let's undo, that's the wrong way. Okay, that's one of them. When I torque them, I will do them opposite, just in case you're wondering. But, just to get this in here for the moment. Okay, let's get the torque wrench set up. Right, so first thing to talk about is how do I stop the drive shaft from spinning when I'm doing up the bolts. So if you saw the video that I produced where I took the diff out, I'm using the same method, which is to jam a piece of wood into there and then jam it against the floor like that, and that will stop it from spinning. Now, because I want to do alternating, I want to do one, then the opposite one, then this one, then its opposite, and then that one on the opposite. I'm going to have to remove the piece of wood each time and move the shaft, which is a bit of a nuisance, but it's got to be done. Now, for these particular bolts, it's 80 Newton meters apparently. I don't remember doing them up that tight before, but that is definitely what it says. Okay, that's one. We'll take the block of wood out. Oops, sorry. Take the block of wood out. That was that one, wasn't it? So that's L3. Actually, what we'll do, we'll put a marker on the end of the bolt to show that I've torqued it. Yeah, you're going to want to do this just to make sure that you know which ones you've done. There you go. Okay, so opposite is that one there. Okay, mark that one. And so we go on. I won't bother showing you me doing every single bolt, but you get the idea. Okay, this is the other side. You can see that I've got that all bolted up as well, so that's done. Did exactly the same, did the smear of the copper slip. What I did do is I ran through every threaded hole with the tap because I think I'd got some paint in a couple of them and I didn't want any problems, so I cleaned them all. You can see I've got this funny effect on the, you see just here on the paint, this here, I don't know what that is. Something on the diff is bleeding through the surface of the paint, so it doesn't look great, but you know, it's, I only, as I said earlier, I just wanted to paint it so I didn't have bits of rust dropping into my eyes as I put the thing back together. Okay, so the next thing to do is the prop shaft flange bolts. But I thought what we would do is take a bit of a time check. So the time now is 12:30. lunchtime, and I'm pretty certain I came out here at 10:30, but I did spend at least half an hour tidying up my garage because I had an oil pan with the gear oil out of the old gear oil out of this final drive, and when I walked in here this morning it stunk. It was horrible. I hate that smell. So I did spend some time cleaning all that out, and I'd got some on the floor and, you know, usual stuff. So I reckon I've been about 90 minutes just sorting out these drive shafts. I can't believe it's taken me that long. I did clean them all with a spinning pad, you know, one of those Scotch-Brite pads. I did clean the surfaces of the flanges to make sure they seat properly. By the way, they are abrasive, those things, so don't go mad with them, but they should be good enough just to clean things up. And I also cleaned the flange on the front. You probably see that you can see the mating surfaces are quite clean now. So I'm going to go and have lunch now, and then we'll set about putting the prop shaft back on, and then we can start putting the exhaust on, and then we'll be done. Okay. So we're now up to the point where we've got to bolt the prop shaft onto the front of the final drive unit. And if you look here, it says shaft coupling to final drive bolts. Note, don't reuse, so we've got the new ones as we've spoken about before. M10 10.9. Well, that is definitely an M10. Then it says with rib teeth under the head one setting, without rib teeth under the head another setting. Now I think what it's referring to is, I hope you can just see that, there's like a serrated effect under the head. You see it just round here. And I can only think that's what that means. So we have to do it 40 Newton meters and then 45 degrees. I'm going to have to debate whether I'm going to actually use an angle gauge or just try and judge it. Try and judge it without the angle gauge. So if we've got 6 points on this, that means that there's 60 degrees between each of these points. So if I turn it 2/3 of that, 2/3 of it would be 40, wouldn't it? And so it's got to be slightly more than that. Great. Okay, I might just do it by eye. I'll do it less than the movement of from one point to another. That should be good enough. I'll see if I can fit the dial gauge in there, the angle gauge, but if I can't, I'll have to do it just by eye. Okay, you can see that I've smeared this with copper slip. I also have run a tap through all of these holes because I don't want any problems with the bolts. So I just need to pull the prop shaft into position, then pull it backwards so that it comes closer. I'm not going to pull it in too tight because I want to get these to line up. Okay, so that's one. I think that's pretty much there. You notice I'm not using Loctite on these. I did use Loctite when I first fitted this with the previous diff, but the thing is that BMW pre-impregnate the bolts with thread locker. You'll find that some have got either a green or a pink sort of effect here, and these haven't got it, and there's no mention of it in the manual, so I'm just going to go without it. Just want to get them started by hand, the same as I did before with the other. Oh, now I'm not going to be able to twist that because I've got to take it out of gear. So let's go and do that. Right, the car is now in neutral, so I should be able to turn this. see if that's going in. I'm not going to use the power capability, I'll just use the ratchet. Yeah, that's going in. Okay. Let's just do these up a bit. I'm going to have to put it back in gear when I torque them. When I torque them up, because obviously I need it to lock. Okay. Now maybe I can do the first part of the torque without putting it in gear. Let's see if we can do that. Okay, so first thing to do is do the bolts up to 40 Newton meters. I don't think this is going to work, is it? No, I'm going to have to, yeah, I don't think this is going to work. I think I'm going to have to lock it. Yeah, okay, let's go and put it in gear. What we'll do, if we put it in that position, I can do that one and that one, then we'll turn it quarter turn and then we'll do the other opposite ones. Right. Okay, I can do this one. Can I do the one at the top? Maybe I can. No. From this side? No. Okay. Getting plenty of exercise. Right, now the angle. So we want a 45-degree turn. I'm going to try and do it with the angle gauge, see how we get on. I have a feeling this isn't going to be easy. Yeah, what's going to happen is, as I turn it, I don't think that's going to help at all. In fact, I think that's going to make everything more inaccurate. Alright, so let's go for plan B. So, I reckon if I pull that rib there round to just before that mark, that's got to be 50 degrees, 45 degrees, so let's go with that. Of course I can't see the rib once the thing's on. Okay, let's get a pen. So we're going to go from there to probably just before that mark, so somewhere around there. Just think again, 60 degrees across the whole thing, so about 45 degrees, that's about right. Okay, that's one done. Alright, I'm going to continue on the same vein, but because I'm going to have to keep unlocking the, taking it out of gear, moving the prop, putting it back in gear. I won't bore you with all of that, but basically that's how I'm going to do it. I'm just going to mark it up, judge, you know, a bit more than 2/3 of the distance between two of these ribs, and then turn it that far. Right, it's all done. So I was able to do these two. I did the first one, which you saw. I then rotated the whole thing 180 degrees and did this one, because obviously I want to do them opposite. And then I was able to do this one and this one without taking it out of gear and doing, you know, fiddling around like that. So just the same deal, just the markers in the right position, and then move it up to the markers. Right, so that's that on. So now it's time, we'll take off this bit of wire here. It's holding the prop shaft up, and it's time to put on the thing to go on now will be the heat shield. Yeah, so it hooks under here and then comes forward, and the other mounting point is the bottom of that bracket there, and another bracket the other side, plus there's a fitting up here, yeah, a screw thing. Where's that? Oh, there it is. It's just there, just up behind there. Okay, so let's get that on next. I am a bit concerned I may have to drop the plastic under trays on each side of the car to get that in, but I'm hoping to do it without dropping those, although I will probably undo these bolts, that bolt there and this one this side. Now, if you didn't see the video where I dismantled all of this, if you've got a road car, or even if you've got a trophy car actually, you're probably going to have this plate going across there like that. Forget about the rubber thing on the back. You're going to have a plate going across there, and you'll need to have dropped that to get this all out. So we just need to undo those bolts each side, so it gives me a bit more movement with this other piece of heat shield, because the one I've got to refit has got to go up behind this. Okay, let's see if we can get this in. This isn't going to work well with the camera. Let's move the camera a bit. Okay, it's worked. All right, let's just leave that hanging there slightly. It's not making particularly good viewing, is it? But you can you see? Let's do it like this. You can see that I've managed to get it to hook under this back piece of heat shield. So let me get that bolted up, and then we'll start the video again. If you saw the video where I dismantled all of this, you remember that there was a exhaust bracket hanging off the back of this suspension bush, so we need to put that back on. And that's an 18mm spanner. In fact, I'm going to leave it loose for the moment until I get the exhaust system on. I've modified this slightly. I'm not running a standard exhaust system. I'm running this Clarius sports system, and try as I might, I can't get it to clear the drive shafts, without extending this hole and dropping this a bit. So that explains why this is actually filed out and whatnot. Okay, so let's now move on to the center section. So what I'm using here is ceramic grease, good to 1500 degrees C. Let's put some of this around here. The reason I'm a bit wary is because there's a flexible joint on my exhaust just below the manifold, and if I keep wrenching this around, the chances are I'm going to break the flex joint, and then I'll have all sorts of problems. So I'm just trying to be careful. I already put grease on the inside of this pipe that I'm attaching. Not quite sure why this is being so resistant. Oh, there we go. Okay. Now I'm going to fix it the other end onto the bracket that I showed you earlier. I was questioning whether this mount should have been on the top of the pipe and the whole thing spun 180 degrees, but I don't think that'll work. I'm fairly certain this is correct as it is. So now we're going to put the back box and the catalytic converter, which is in one piece. We're going to put that on there and get that mounted. Okay, that's it. It's on. What I'm going to do, I probably looked pretty red-faced. It is so hot in here at the moment. What I'll do now is I'll just juggle this around till I get it in a position that I like, and then I'll just bolt things up. But I don't think there's anything more to show you. We've basically gone through the whole procedure. We've got the final drive unit back in. We've put all the drive shafts, attached the prop shaft, put the heat shield back in, put the exhaust back in, and basically we're ready to go. Of course, my only concern now is this final drive unit okay? Because I have no idea. It came out of a car that had done 81,000 miles. My one's done 170,000, so it should be good. It seems there's no slop in it or anything, and there's no excessive amount of end float. It has got a bit of end float, but not as much as the other one had. Yeah, it's just got a little bit, but I take it's got to have something, otherwise it'd be locked pretty solid, wouldn't it? So we'll see how we get on at the track. Okay, hope you found that useful, and please drop me a comment, particularly if you know any shortcuts around some of this stuff. That would be really useful. Yeah, I hope you can use this information, and I'll catch you on the next one.